Here we have the Firefox helicopter. Now I have this in the description below the like button. I'm not terribly familiar with like these helicopters or anything, but again, that's in the description below the like button to check out. Here, we're just going to be fixing it. What I have here is one that is broken. After a lot of crashes, though, I do have to note that this thing is very light and actually very, very durable. And what broke is probably the part that will always break, the most sensitive part. You can see that the part in the shaft came out of the center part. So whenever this spins, it doesn't really spin this part. The bearings are located on the bottom half, and the top part that came out, well, it's not flush in there anymore. So it's not connected to the bearings, and therefore it's not going to be spinning. We're going to fix this, and it's actually really, really easy. The first thing that we're going to do is remove the part that's holding the top part with the blade housing down with the actual part that does the movement. You can see that there's going to be two arms that go from the top blade part onto the lower part, and then from there there's going to be two arms even lower than that, and these kind of clip into smaller motors on the actual base of it. What you're going to want to do is basically unclip everything. The next thing that we have to do is remove the screw that's holding in the swash plate, and the swash plate is the top part that's holding in the two blades. It's just one screw that goes through the swash plate into the shaft holding it together. Now mine is severely stripped, so if you unscrew it a couple times, it's just going to strip as the screw is rethreading itself through the plastic every single time. So what I ended up doing was just using some tweezers and plucking mine out. Now, I put it back in later and it still holds pretty good, but that's just something to note that you're gonna have to do if you have taken this out multiple times. Now is where I remove the bottom two parts that hold in the thing. I told you to remove it earlier. I didn't, though. Should have. And after this, we're going to easily be able to pop off from the center shaft the cross plate. Now remember, the cross plate is in two pieces now. It's broken. We can see that. The way that we're going to fix it is you can see that the plastic is just bent and ugly and molded. What you can do is take a little bit of like wire cutters and you could try to chop off a little bit of the excess, if and only if you can't bend it down and kind of morph it and push it together towards the middle like I just did. So you're going to want to try to squeeze it together in the middle as much as you can, that way it can fit into the shaft. Now it's not going to be a tight fit, but we're going to fix that in a second. After some repeated putting it in and taking it out, hopefully it is in there, like the size is great for the plastic that got morphed. But hopefully it's also loose enough to go in and out very easily. Because what we're going to do now is use our hot glue gun. You can see that I go around the edge and I'm just putting hot glue around the entire edge. Once hot glue is around the entire edge, you're going to want to shove it into the shaft very quickly so that the hot glue does not dry until it gets into the middle part. Now hopefully this will secure it. It did for me. It secured it with the middle part. So there's the middle metal part, there's the bearings, and the outer parts. You only want the hot glue to go from the plastic part to the innermost ring, and you don't want any of the hot glue getting in the bearings. If you see any, because I made a mistake like this a little bit, you're going to want to pull it out as soon as possible so you don't get any glue fragments stuck inside of there. It also needs to rotate freely on top, so it's important that if there's any glue fragments on the metal part on the top that needs to rotate, you clean that off. You can just pick it off with sharp tweezers. That's what I did, and it'll come off pretty easily, and then you're going to be able to hopefully spin it quite easily. It should spin almost, if not just as freely as it did previously. The first step in our reassembly process is to put our crossplate back in. You're going to want to kind of angle it because there's like a notch for this helicopter where a little rod goes in. So you want to angle that so it goes in there. Make sure you put it in right side up. And then you're going to want to reattach the parts that go from the little motors at the base onto the little nubs. So you attach that. Take your time because you don't want to snap any of the fragile plastics. So I also took off the next layer of the two parts that hold from the crossplate to the swash plate in. What you're going to want to do is pop those back on, being very careful with those as well. The next thing that we're going to do is note that there is a small hole that goes through the metal shaft. And through here, you're going to want to put the top part, which is the swash plate that has the whole blade assembly on it. You're going to want to put that in. You're going to line up the holes so that you can either shove your strip screw back in or re-screw it in. Once you're done with that, you're going to want to make sure you attach the parts that's holding in the cross plate, or the part that's going from the cross plate, the two little black strips of the bars. You want to make sure they're going from the cross plate to the swash plate, and that way it can move the swash plate when the cross plate is moved by the bottom mounted motors. So you want to make sure all of the pins are properly pushed in and all of the little bars and tabs are properly seated together. Once you check that everything works, spins freely, everything's good, the next thing you're going to want to do is put the canopy back on. This is to prevent anything from getting inside of the circuit board or messing up any of the motors if you do get into a nasty crash. Hopefully it will protect it. But what we're going to do, and this takes a while, just like some of the other things, it might be really fast for you. This is the first time it actually took me so long to line it up to where it would clip on to the parts on the back. Now you can see that there's two holes on the side of the canopy. You're going to line those up with the two little rods on the side, and you're going to push them in. They have these rubber washers which kind of hold it in, but if you get into a crash it might pop out, so you're going to want to check for that. Now what we can do is go out and test to see if this thing actually flies.